welcome to Big Ten Media Day here at the Crown Plaza Hotel, just outside of O'Hare Airport. I'm Kevin Bowen, men's basketball beat writer for IDS, with Connor O'Gara and Avi Zayon, and we are here live, just wrapping up Media Day. It's just had a little lunch and a little one-on-one player interviews. We had coaches' press conferences earlier today. First, we talked about IU. Tom Crean had his press conference today, obviously centered on Zeller. He told a brief story about Zeller in a scrimmage a few days ago, how he wasn't getting enough touches in the post, and how he kind of stopped practice, made it a huge point of emphasis really to get Zeller the ball, not only so Cody can score, but also just playing through Cody in the post. He says it'll open up a lot more passing lanes and stuff for other players in the team. So that was kind of the big emphasis of his press conference. Guys, what were your thoughts maybe on IU, Jordan Holes, Verdell Jones, and Will Sheehy were also here?
Just kind of interesting to talk about. Crean talks about how IU players aren't even used to passing into the post, because if you look at these past 3 years, IU has not had a post scorer. So Crean talks about how they spend more of an emphasis in practice on working on getting the ball into the post, and that's just part of the maturation process with Jordan Holes that he's been talking about for all summer now, talking about becoming more of a leader, becoming more of that vocal presence that IU has lacked in these past few years under Crean. And really it was just more of, we heard a lot more of that today, and how he is really looking to establish himself as the guy, and the guy that is accountable for this team.
Yeah, one of the real interesting things to me was that when we were in the coaches' press conference, and each coach has an allotted amount of time to do their press conference, I think about the first 5 questions centered around Cody Zeller.
Right.
I mean, it was so clear, not only what the Indiana media wanted to talk about, but the certain representatives that were here from across the country wanted to talk about. It was so clear and so evident that this will be such a change for this Indiana basketball team this year. And it was just incredible. Even when we got to the one-on-ones later on, it just question after question about how is Cody Zeller going to change the dynamic of this team. And just honing in on one thing real quick is that Tom Crean brought up an interesting point where he said, who is this going to affect? This is going to affect Tom Pritchard. Cody on offense and Tom on the defensive end. This is going to open them up. They're going to complement each other. He talked a lot about spreading the floor, creating more open space, for some offensive opportunities. And I think that's a great point. A lot of people kind of write off Tom Pritchard. They're like, oh, it's Tom. He had the one dunk, and other than that, But it brings up a good point where now that the post is not just on Tom Pritchard's shoulders, how is he going to be able to be used on both sides of the court in a more effective way?
Like you mentioned, Avi, obviously the whole press conference is really Zeller-based. He also mentioned Verdell Jones' mid-range game, how it's one of the best that he's seen, really. Crean talked about how this team needs to take a climb, was the word that he used.
Use that phrase a lot, yeah.
Yeah, he used that phrase. That's
very Miley Cyrus-like.
Right, exactly. Climbing in the Big Ten. I think now he feels that he has 4 years of scholarship players in this program. This team now can compete. They look like a Big Ten basketball team. He talked about it's one of the best springs that he's ever seen with them. That's led in the summer. Verdell Jones and Jordy Holes preached the same thing, how now they feel like they are really a part of the Big Ten Conference, how they feel they can compete with every team in this conference. Not only do they look like a Big Ten team, but they now have guys in 5 spots on the floor that can score. Tom Crean also mentioned in his press conference how at times you couldn't guard 1 or 2 guys. There was no need to guard. I used to play so many walk-ons or so many guys that offensively weren't very gifted. There were so many times that teams didn't have to guard those guys. He says to win in this league and to be in the top half of this league, you have to have 5 guys on the floor that can score and do something on the offensive end of the floor. Now looking at kind of the Big Ten and the bigger picture, briefly, I'll talk about Thad Matta. They were the Big Ten preseason favorite that was picked earlier today. Jared Sullinger, obviously Big Ten preseason player of the year. Thad Matta, again, talked about how Sullinger's kind of changed his body a little bit, gotten slimmer, can now shoot from the outside. He mentioned 2010 Indiana Mr. Basketball, Deshaun Thomas has lost 15 pounds. Another guy that really last year was only a shooter, now can do more things. Aaron Kraft was here representing the Buckeyes. Freshman, he mentioned Sam Thompson. He calls him the most athletic player he's ever coached, which is very high praise coming from what Matta's done and really in the last 5 years, making them one of the best teams in the Big Ten. He also said Shannon Scott, point guard, will play in the backcourt with Aaron Kraft. Guys, you guys talked to a lot of coaches, a lot of different players here. What are your kind of general impressions of everybody outside of IU in terms of the Big Ten Conference?
You kind of get a feel that obviously they're going to say what's PR acceptable, and they're going to speak in coaches speak, but you really get to know kind of coaches, and when you get down to these one-on-one situations with them, you really let them talk basketball instead of talk PR. And you talk to guys like Matt Painter, who Matt Painter is about as straight shooter as it gets when it comes to evaluating talent. And I want to bring up a point that Painter made about Cody Zeller that I was talking to him about. He said how with Zeller, there might be a lot of IU fans that are trying to put pressure on him to be that next guy and to be the guy that's going to take over for IU. But great players really, I guess they don't define pressure. Pressure isn't something that really makes a great player, and they don't feel that. And I think that's what you look at for a lot of these freshmen that are going to try and have a big impact in the Big Ten. A guy like Zeller that's depended on as the savior of this program. And you know what? It really is the perception around him right now, according to these other coaches. Other coaches talk very highly of Zeller, and they're expecting him, from what I gathered, as being the Big Ten Freshman of the Year. And I think we'd be surprised to see anything other than that going into this year.
Well, the progression of Cody Zeller, I think, and I know this is oddly specific, but I really think this kid can average a double-double in non-conference play. But then once he gets into Big Ten play, you were talking about, the coaches know Cody Zeller's an integral part of this team. What do you think they're going to do? Probably going to focus on Cody Zeller. Now, whether he's able to overcome that, and continue to put up the type of numbers that I think he will earlier in the season, remains to be seen. I'm not going to sit here and speculate on that, but I definitely think it's going to be a lot tougher when he gets into the Big Ten, because coaches will know exactly what to look for.
He's not sneaking up on anybody.
Right. I think definitely he'll be the Big Ten preseason freshman. They're trying to wrap things up here. A couple other points that I thought, guys, and I'll let you guys finish with your lasting impressions. Matt Painter mentioned how Robbie Hummel needs to be more of a factor scoring the ball for Purdue. In years past, he was a guy that always looked to make the extra pass. Etwan Moore, Juwan Johnson are nowhere to be found for the Boilers, so Robbie Hummel's got to be not a ball hog, but more assertive. I think on offense, Purdue's definitely going to look for that. Bruce Weber mentioned how Miles Leonard, their center's got all the potential in the world. A lottery pick by some of these NBA draft websites. He's looking for a name to step up because they don't bring back. They lost 4 starters. Brandon Paul, DJ Richardson are going to have to play big minutes for them. I'm trying to think of some other coaches that mentioned some stuff. Tom Izzo's got a lot of new faces. Brandon Wood, a transfer from Valparaiso's bringing in a 2-guard. Keith Athleen's got to play point guard. He obviously has Draymond Green, who's been a mainstay, is what Tom Izzo called him in that program for the last 4 years. Guys, what are your lasting thoughts really on Big Ten Media Day?
Draymond Green is a giant. He's a big green giant. That is my last impression.
He's a bad man.
He was a bad man. That's the first time I've ever stood next to Draymond Green today, and I was really impressed with one, the way he kind of handled himself amongst the media. And he's just a big goofy guy. He's huge, and I guess watching him on TV, you really don't get that perception because everybody in the Big Ten is 6'6", 6'7". But really impressed with the way he handled himself. Impressed with a lot of the way these student athletes handled themselves. You got to remember that they're guys at our age, and they're on some of the biggest stages in the
Jordan
world.
Taylor, John Sherman, two guys I thought.
And they got to sit here for 2 hours answering the same questions over and over again.
Anything else, Avi?
Just a real quick point that I want to get out of the way before we sign off here is that one of the things Tom Crean talked about in his press conference that I didn't know is that he said he had been spending so much time with his team during practice, focusing on defense, that it hasn't been the same allocation to offense. Verdell Jones told me it's not a 60-40 thing. And a lot of players echoed Crean and his defense. How do we create offense? We do it through defense. We do it through drawing charges, creating turnovers, and I really think that you could see a little bit of that hurrying Hoosiers atmosphere, or style play, coming into relevance as we start the season. We saw that Cody Zeller can run the floor. If IU can create that really high intensity defense and get a faster tempo on offense, I think that's a very legitimate possibility for this team.
Definitely some easy baskets with Zeller running the floor. So thank you to Aaron Siegal-Eisman for the camera work today. And basically we've got Honor Hall of Hoops on Saturday. Not really much. I should be there. Talked to J.D. Campbell. He said maybe a scrimmage, and that's about it really. Sunday IU has a close scrimmage with Indiana State. No media, no access allowed. And then next Saturday, University of Indianapolis comes to Assembly Hall for their first and only exhibition game of the season before Stony Brook the following Friday, November 11th, to open up the 2011-2012 season. So for Connor and Avi, I'm Kevin Bowen. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next